evening. This is National Nightly Network News with Ian Goodings and Narelle Parkinson.
Yes, it is.
And ahead in tonight's bulletin, the weather with Phil Toynbee and the news read by Ian and I. Ian, how's the news looking tonight?
Well, yes, Narelle, tonight's news should be sad and full of death early, but then becoming brighter with more animal-based stories later on.
Looking forward to reading it with you. See you then.
Yes, indeed. Thanks, Narelle.
First, the news. Australia's richest man, Kerry Packer, last week suffered a suspected heart attack. When asked whether his entire life flashed before his eyes, he answered no. All I got was a bunch of crappy bloopers hosted by Stephen Jacobs.
Channel 10's decision to axe the Australian soap Echo Point has proved somewhat controversial. Fans of the program were quick to show their support today.
When do we want it back? What do we want? Echo Point. When do we want it back? Now.
In last night's news, we told you of the 93-year-old man who died after winning the Waggett Fun Run.
Yes, indeed we did, Ian.
Yes, I just thought I'd mention that story again because it's one of my favourites.
Mine too, but the story does have a human side. And joining us now in the studio is that human, the widow of the man some, particularly us, call old Johnny Deadboots. Mrs. Deadboots, thanks for joining us. Your husband's death yesterday was the 1000th. We reported on National Nightly Network News, so I guess I should offer you both condolences and congratulations.
Thank you.
It must have come as quite a shock.
Oh, yes, I'd never won anything in my life.
I know this might be difficult for you, Mrs. Deadboots, but could you tell us, in as much graphic detail as possible, the circumstances surrounding your husband's death?
Well, he'd just won the fun run. He was very happy, a little bit out of breath, so we had to sit down and I got him a drink, a barley drink, I think it was. I'm not sure.
Yes, and the death bit?
Oh. Well, yes. We got in the car. I drove out of the car park, along the street, and off a bridge.
So you killed him?
Well, one of your news fans ran us off the road.
And you can see that spectacular footage tonight on the Best of the World's Worst Drivers, number 3. Well, old woman, for turning your misery to our ratings advantage, we'd like you to accept this lovely offal hamper from our friends at Carnage Brothers Butchers.
Oh, how lovely!
And looks to me like they've thrown in a sprig of parsley as well.
Good for the breath.
What you have left of it, yes. Well, a sad and sorry grieving widow there, to whom we offer our sincerest and deepest sympathies. Ian.
Thanks, Narelle. Yes, but now, speaking of carnage, time for sport. And tonight we introduce our new sports reporter, former Australian welterweight champion, the Brownish Bomber, Milo Kerrigan. Milo, mate, thanks for joining us. Tell us, what happened in sport today?
Thanks very much. Well, a lot of times like guys with occasional rockets and poison and stuff. A couple of times around Colorado. Basically, in the team, come into you at Sunday. David! Molly! Back to you, Ian.
Thanks, Milo. Good news for Saints supporters there. Well, weekend weather coming up, I imagine, at the end of the week. And to take the Bureau of Meteorology's information and rephrase it in an attempt to make it sound different from every other weather report on television, here's Phil, no nickname anymore, Toynbee.
Well, thanks, Ian. Well, rain fell in some parts of New South Wales today, mainly the ground. And the biggest fall recorded was 400 feet when I pushed my psychoanalyst out of his 20th story window. And now a big hello and a big thank you to little Heather Weens from Quorn, who sent me in her pet fish Toby to use as a pointer. Thank you. So, Adelaide was moist and 57. Brisbane was fish-stained and 95, while Perth and Sydney both recorded very high levels of mercury, although not quite as high as our friend Toby here. Isn't that right, Toby? Yes. And finally, most of the capital cities can expect good weather this weekend, but don't forget your brolly, because it's still in the back of my car and I'm sick of having to drive it over to your house to drop it off. Well, back to you, Ian and Narelle.
Yes, thanks, Philby Matopoulos. And what's happening on the weekendicus? Bit of Tennessee Poos, perhaps, with Nellie Peggs and I?
No, I'll try and make it, Ian, but I had planned to incinerate myself in a bath full of metho.
Well, don't put yourself out. And Narelle, I hope to see you at the Glen Butchley tennis courts this week for our network sausage sizzle and a bit of tennis as well-a-thon. And don't forget, all that money raised is going to pay for the much-needed heart surgery for little Tommy Battersby, who, as we speak, is hanging onto dearest life by the barest of threads.
To be there, Ian, but I've got a bit of reading to catch up on.
Good on you, Narelle. And, of course, good on you, too. Until next week, good night, and Tommy, mate, if you're watching, goodbye.
This is the New Look National Nightly Network News. Now with Ian Gooding on the left-hand side of the desk and Narelle Parkinson on the right. And speaking of Ian Gooding and Narelle Parkinson, here they are now.
Good evening, and a pleasure to be speaking to you from this side of the screen.
Certainly gives you a new perspective on the news you're reading.
Yes, indeed, Narelle. I always think it's healthy to embrace change and adapt to it.
I agree with you more, Ian.
But first, the main stories. ABC chief Brian Johns has announced further budget cuts. The programme's Frontline and The Bottom Line will be merged to make a new series known as Front Bottom.
Julia Roberts has been selected over Demi Moore for the lead in the new Batman movie. Producers of the film said that Roberts was selected because they were looking for someone with a fuller mouth, and Divine Brown wasn't available.
Yes, indeed.
Sports next, with former welterweight boxing champ, the Brownish bomber Milo Kerrigan, who today released his new CD of boxing songs. Milo, congratulations, and what's the album called?
It's basically a tune, and it's got a tribute to and it's called Five.
Terrific. Ask for it by name. And tonight Milo's going to give us a taste of the album with his very popular That's the Thing About Boxing. Take it away, Milo.
So, catch us there. I walked down the street, I was standing there, and the crowd is rather and then the houses gonna try and call cut as they find for the cat on his knees. Said, that's what I like about. That's what I like about. That's what I like about boxing. Oh, and someone named the cat Calvin cried, mine.
Thanks, Milo. Look forward to hearing that set to music.
Well, all this week, the man they call Mr. Weatherhead, phantasmagorical Phil Toynbee, has been bringing us the weather forecast live from various locations in and around Sydney. Let's cross live to the Toynster now. Philby, where are you tonight?
Well, sounds more like a disease to me, Narelle. Well, I'm here today on beautiful Observatory Hill, named, of course, after that famous Australian Richard Observatory. Great man, and certainly a fitting bridge and load of water around here, in honour of his 70% water content of his body and his dental work. And of course our thanks go to the local authorities who very kindly gave us permission to keep the homeless men and street kids out of the area we're filming. So, for tomorrow... around the country... Well, first of all, I must thank Mrs. Ruby Snooby, who very kindly sent me in these rocks to use as a pointer. So, for tomorrow, Brisbane will be fine and 23. Adelaide will be overcast and 19, while Melbourne, Sydney and Canberra will be all clear. Well, that's about it from me here on Observatory Hill. Back to the studio.
And good to see Phil up there in Sydney and not down here in the studio revolting us.
Yes, indeed, Narelle, I certainly do hate him. Well, we'll leave you tonight with these pictures of us straightening our papers and faking a conversation. Good night.
And tonight Milo's going to give us a taste of the album with his very popular That's the Thing About Boxing. Take it away, Milo.
So, Tatcher's there. I walked down the street, I was standing there, and the bread is rather and down the houses in a trial called Hot on the point with the cat on his knees said, Dad! That's what I love about. That's what I like about. That's what I love about books. Oh, and someone man, the cat Calvin, right. Mine!